On October 4th, 2018, I decided to have my very first ever stream to Twitch. I dabbled a few times with Blizzard's built-in streaming software, playing Overwatch to Facebook gaming of all things, and was enamored with the idea of playing games live to an audience. I'd grown a little bored playing the same shooters and AAA games, and I'd remembered an interesting looking game that I'd seen on Steam the other day. A game with art like I'd never seen and a playstyle I'd never really tried. So that day I got off work and sat myself down to stream for real for the very first time. I booted up OBS, clicked go live, and opened up a game called Darkest Dungeon. Little did I know that 5 years later, that little indie game would change my life.
You will arrive along the old road. It winds with a troubling, serpent-like suggestion through the corrupted countryside, leading only, I fear, to ever more tenebrous places.
It might be a little odd, I guess, to talk about how a video game could have such a profound impact on someone's life, but here I am. With Darkest Dungeon 2 launching fully soon, I couldn't help but think back on just exactly how much this game has changed me for the better, changed me in the years since I picked it up. You know, what's really funny about it is that I hated the game initially. It was so brutal, and I never played something that truly just didn't give you the things you needed to win as long as you just tried. This game was aggravating, it was unrelenting, it truly did feel unfair. Every other game I'd played up till then was simple. It showed you where to go, it gave you hints, it made things easy, it let you win. Not this game. It wasn't long after I'd initially streamed it that I put it down, choosing to move on to other things. But the thing is, the game had started an itch in my head that I couldn't scratch with the games that I'd used to play. I couldn't get away from the fact that it was so unapologetically itself. It didn't cater to the wants of everyone. It was a game made by people who wanted that exact game, and it showed in every fiber of its being. It had started something in me that would follow me for the continuation of my aspiring hobby of being a maker of things and creator of content. I wanted to find more games like it, though admittedly maybe ones that were not as brutal on the RNG. At this point, I'd moved into streaming more mainstream games. I was playing PUBG, Dead by Daylight, Call of Duty, just whatever kind of big game was in at the time to play in the stream. Wasn't really seeing much success, but it was what everyone else was doing. I enjoyed the act of streaming itself, sharing that experience, making friends, building a community. But it just wasn't very enjoyable. In a sea of people doing the same thing, I had no voice. Still, I kept thinking about that cool-looking indie game and just how, oh, well, cool it was. These mainstream games were all the same, all carbon copies and just dull. Each one hashing out the same tricks with different shaders and different effects, but still coming to the same result. So I decided that I wanted to try more indie titles. There must be more games like this Darkest Dungeon, right? Ones that wouldn't kick my butt so much, but still ones that had that same passion that bled from the screen as you played. Well, over the next year, I delved hard into the world of indie games. I found a love for them that I would never have imagined I could have. These were small games, sometimes only made by a single person, and yet they were so true to themselves and the vision their creators had for them. I just couldn't get enough. Hollow Knight, Stardew, Cuphead, Dead Cells, Ori, Children of Morta, Hyper Light Drifter, Inscription, Binding of Isaac, Castle Crashers, Dicey Dungeons, Bendy and the Ink Machine, Euphoria, Enter the Gungeon, For the King, Hades, Katana Zero, Monster Train, Slay the Spire, Oxygen Not Included, Slime Rancher, Starbound, Subnautica, and that's just to name a few of them. So many games with so many styles and stories and love and care poured into their very being. They were vivid, they were intimate, they were full of passion, and it showed. It was art like I'd never really understood. I'd never admired paintings, I'd never been much of a person to analyze music and break apart lyrics, but this? Games? This I could feel and touch and be swept away by. This was what fine art was to me. Through this time, I really found my passion and myself within my journey of being a creator. I built a community of people who loved the expression of these little games, who could appreciate the details with me and revel in the wonder of them. I'd found my people, and it made me happy. Yet in the back of my head, I couldn't help but be reminded of the little indie game that had started me on this journey, one that had taken me in with open arms, and yet one that I tossed to the curb with anger and contempt. So it was that in late 2020, I again took up the mantle of playing Darkest Dungeon. And it was with great joy that I found myself falling madly in love with it this time around. So much so that I played little else for the foreseeable future. Darkest Dungeon consumed my streams, and yet oddly enough, I could never get myself to beat it. I would amass hours and hours into a hamlet, into the heroes, into the story, only to give up on it once I'd reached the endgame. I would return again a few weeks later from another game I'd finished, only to repeat the cycle, telling myself I needed to start fresh so I could enjoy the full experience. It was a vicious cycle where I could never seem to make myself finish the journey. Maybe I was afraid it spelled the end of an era, maybe I was afraid it would be a letdown after hyping it up so much. This was the game that had started so much for me after all. I'd found my passion because of it, and I really couldn't bear to see it over. That is, until I caught wind of something special. Something that I'd managed to miss any news on for over an entire year. Red Hook was making a sequel. That very next week, I beat the final boss. I don't think I've ever been so excited as I was watching the first teaser trailer. The art, the environment, the reverberating voice of Wayne June. Here it was my favorite thing, but even better. More refined, more developed. The journey didn't have to end with the first game. Even through all the negative comments, the hatred of the change, the dismay at the choices Red Hook was making, I myself was nothing but excited. I was enthralled by the idea that I could not only be a part of the early access this time around, but that I could possibly have an influence on the game design itself. Red Hook was going to ask for feedback probably, maybe they would listen to something I said. What an awesome opportunity. And this is where I made the decision that I would go whole hog into creating things for Darkest Dungeon 2. I wanted to be on the ground floor of the game. One of the first people to make content around it, to make videos about it, to stream about it. The day before my birthday on October 27th, 2021, Darkest Dungeon 2 launched in early access. And from that point on, it's been nothing but a whirlwind for me. Since that day, I've made over 150 videos on the game, from Let's Plays to guides to memes to rage moments. The game has become my mainstay and my place of comfort, and I've loved every minute of it. I've played over 1,000 hours of it, and it's not even out yet. How crazy is that? Darkest Dungeon 2 helped me earn my partnership on YouTube. It's helped me gain hundreds of followers. It's allowed me to make friends and create memories with the amazing members of its growing community. Not only that, but I've been lucky enough to have a true impact on the game itself. Being offered the chance to become a playtester by Red Hook, being offered to stream to the store page to showcase the game to thousands of fans. I can't tell you just how much it's meant to me to know that I've been able to become an integral part of the very game series that's changed my life so much, and hopefully might change somebody else's for the better too. So as we near closer and closer to the launch of this game, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to the amazing community that has watched my videos and streams and shorts and other silly things and has been a part of this journey so far. Thank you to all the friends that I've made because of this game. The people who have offered me advice and given me tips on how to play, what videos to make, what things are gonna be good, who have become a real part of my life. And of course, a big thank you to Red Hook and everyone who's worked on this series, both old and new, from the big things to the little things. A big thank you to Chris and Tyler, whose vision has given me the foundation on which I so thankfully stand. Really, truly, thank you. So now, on the cusp of the game's launch this next week, let us delve into the Darkest Dungeon.